Thank you for everyone for joining us for Insource or Outsource, making the right call for your business. So this is workshop 4 in the Cost of Doing Business series, at which we're really pleased to be delivering through the Business Tasmania service, which I manage. I'm Kelly, I haven't introduced myself, and we're delivering it with the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, our partners that we deliver a lot of workshops with and work closely with. And our presenters today are from the Chamber. We have Mikala and Stacey Joseph. So they'll be presenting lots of great things that you'll learn about today to benefit your business. So before I hand over to the ladies, I'd like to firstly acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal people, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. We encourage you to ask questions if you have any throughout the session through the Q&A function or raising your virtual hand. So you're going to hear a lot of different things today. And I just wanted to mention, if you're sitting there and thinking, oh, gee, I really would like a bit more help with what the ladies are covering, you can actually then make contact with Business Tasmania and access free business advice through the New Business Support Pilot Program, which is for newer businesses with an Australian business number less than 12 months old, or for people thinking about starting a business, you can access 2 hours of free support. Or if you have an Australian business number which is 12 months old or older, so to speak, you can access 5 hours of free business advice each financial year. So you're not alone after today. You can then come back to us and access the free advice services. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well. So what I'll do now is I'll hand over to Mikala and Stacey for the presentation.
Thanks, Kel.
Welcome.
Thank you. So today you've got both of us, Mikala and Stacey, talking you through a really common dilemma for small business owners. Should I be doing this myself, or is it time to think about outsourcing? So whether it's bookkeeping, marketing, admin, or something more hands-on like service provision, we'll be looking at how to decide what's worth keeping in-house and what might be better and smarter to hand over to someone else. We'll talk you through what to consider, common mistakes to avoid, and how to weigh up the time, cost, and control factors so that you can make the right decision for where your business is at right now. So step 1, we're going to review what you're currently doing. And I guess the question here for us is really, and Mikala's got some great answers for us, what are your staff doing every week that isn't core to your business?
So what you want to do here is you want to reflect on the tasks that you or your team spend time on that don't directly deliver value to your customers or don't grow revenue. So an example of this might be an online retail business. So say the owner is Jess and she spends 8 to 10 hours a week managing her social media, but as most of us feel, doesn't enjoy it and doesn't see much return in it. So her time could actually often be better spent or better used to develop new products for her business, which might actually be her core strength, or to look into different ways to, we've spoken on previous workshops about improving your customer journey. So quite often the business owner's time can be spent so much better doing other things that are going to add value to your customers and to work on maintaining customer retention and just looking at new opportunities and growing new business opportunities. And also in doing that, in outsourcing some things to free up your business leaders, it then gives their staff the opportunity to pick up some of what they've been doing as well. So, then you can end up with your business leaders actually spending more time looking out at opportunities and engaging in opportunities.
It's freeing you up to work on your business, not in your business, which is often a very big challenge in a small business.
Absolutely.
So I guess part of that criteria then is, could somebody else be doing this as that is their core business, faster, cheaper, or better? And if that task isn't core to your business, who else might be better positioned to be doing that for you?
Exactly. So some of the things that, again, you want to consider. So some of the questions you want to ask yourself: what are the things that you're slow at? Like, you know, you may be doing your bookkeeping and you may feel that you're doing fine with doing your bookkeeping, but if it's taking you hours and hours and hours to do something because you're not quite sure, then that's really something to consider. Another thing to consider is, does it drain your energy or your will to live? Like, again, thinking about things like social media that lots of small business owners really don't like, you know, or marketing in general. Lots of small business owners really struggle with that, but feel it's something they need to do. And then there's a really good one from a personal productivity perspective. Are you actually getting it done, or is it something that you're just avoiding? So often we get tasks that, you know, we keep putting off and keep putting off, and we know it's important, but we keep putting it off and it gets down and further and further down the list. There are some other good things. If they're going to bring in value to your business or to your customers and clients, then it might be something worth doing. However, you know, if it is something that keeps getting dropped off and it really doesn't need to be done, then it's something you can just forget about completely for your business. So again, an example for this is a cafe may save hundreds of dollars and hours of stress each month by outsourcing their payroll to a local bookkeeper.
Absolutely. And I was thinking on that example also, we work with a lot of businesses that are you getting it done or just avoiding it? Things around, you know, am I paying people correctly? Have we looked at whether or not we're paying people under the right classification, under the right award? And if you're not a nerd that enjoys trawling through modern awards and the Fair Work website, then it's one of those tasks that you're avoiding or would take you hours and hours to be able to get all of the right information. And if that's not your core business and it's not your strength, then potentially you're better off looking at who else might be able to help you with those things that not only is faster at doing it, but that is their core business and their strength. And so what's going to take you hours and may or may not be right could be done by somebody else, you know, in half an hour, and then you have a bit of peace of mind that you've actually got the information that you need from somebody that's an expert in that field.
Yeah, you can consider it a tip on your own to-do list.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so some common tasks that you could outsource. So as we've kind of mentioned, payroll and bookkeeping, your tax and BAS lodgements, they often cause a lot of stress and take a lot of time for business. Website maintenance and updates. So if that's not something that you're really skilled in, it can really be worth your while to outsource that to someone who is skilled in that area, especially because, and I've done this myself, you know, you do an update and suddenly you break everything and then you spend hours and hours trying to fix it. It can be a really good thing to do because it can often take an expert 10 minutes to do. Copywriting and social media, that's something that takes a lot of time and energy for business owners. Work health, safety and risk management, that's something else you might want to consider outsourcing. IT troubleshooting and cybersecurity. And admin tasks like emails and diary management, recruitment and onboarding, debt collection, that's often one that we put off. And packaging and fulfillment. So if you've got an online store and you find that you're struggling to keep up with the demands in orders, there's lots of different options for actually outsourcing that to a warehouse or somewhere that has the staff that can do it a lot faster and more effectively and efficiently than you can do it. So just before we go on to the next slide, we did have a question from one of the people who registered, who mentioned outsourcing business social media, website and Google. Is that good or bad? And I guess to that, what I'd say is, because of what we've spoken about before, you know, if it's something you don't like doing or you're really not good at, it can be really good, or you don't have the skills, it can be really good to outsource. But the thing to be really aware of in outsourcing it is to ensure that whoever you're outsourcing it to really understands your business. So this is particularly with social media and Google Ads. So an example is my daughter's actually just taken up a new job with a local hotel chain. And she was looking at their social media because she's quite trained and skilled in that area. And she was looking through their feed, and it's really obvious to us that they've had an external marketing company take over it, and they're not nailing it in terms of the brand, like the images they're using, they don't, it doesn't gel. It's not, it doesn't represent the business well, and they're using different fonts, and some of the templates and things they're using are kind of a bit cheap and below what you would think this brand would use. And also the wording, it's not quite right. So if you are going to outsource stuff like that, make sure that it's to a company that really does their homework and really understands your brand, because that can damage your brand in the public eye. So it's good if it's something you don't like doing, but it can be bad if you don't get the right people behind you doing that for you.
Yeah. And I would argue, a lot of those things, when you look at the common tasks to outsource, most people, unless one of those things is your business, do not go into business so that they can do payroll and bookkeeping. They don't go into business so that they can maintain a website. And often workplace health and safety and risk management is not something that businesses think of in the first place. It's not until, something happens, or maybe the insurance company asks some questions, and then we go, oh, well, I don't really know where to start with this. And so there's some, fantastic people out there that have amazing knowledge in this space. And if you look at the cost benefit, and these are often the things that we don't do anything about until it's too late. IT troubleshooting and cybersecurity, that's a pretty big thing. So thinking about, if we need to make sure we do this properly, and if you're holding your client data in your systems, not outsourcing that to an organisation that has really good experience and skills in that space is a huge risk in the long term for your business. So, yes, it's about how much time you could be spending on your business and working on your business, but some of these things are a massive investment in future-proofing your business, and also managing the risks that might present by not being on top of them. And, we've seen some pretty big businesses in the media that have had cybersecurity breaches.
Yeah.
And if it can happen to those businesses, we might think I'm a small business, nobody cares about me. But if you're storing data or financial information on your clients, then you are, potentially a target for those things. So that's probably the other consideration, that a lot of this stuff we keep on our to-do list, or we sort of do a little bit of it. But if we're looking at really making sure that we've got all our bases covered, then there are some really good alternatives out there.
And just to that IT troubleshooting thing again, you mentioned to me, I think it was last week, that was it well-functioning IT is, or
psychosocial hazard?
Yes.
Yes.
Not IT that doesn't function well.
Yes, absolutely. So, job satisfaction for people, if you've ever worked somewhere where the IT is a bit patchy, it certainly affects people's job satisfaction. And not having the tools and equipment that we need to be able to do our job is actually identified as a psychosocial hazard in the workplace. And as somebody that's had their fair share of IT issues, I can absolutely validate that. All right, so step 3, and I guess we're looking now at thinking about how we're currently outsourcing. So what are you currently outsourcing, and is that setup actually working for you?
Yeah, so what we're saying with this is not that, you might want to consider stopping outsourcing, although we will get to that in a moment. But what we're kind of getting at here is that it could be worth reviewing the model that you're using. So some of the models that you might use with like an independent contractor or a business or whoever it is that you outsource things to are a flat rate versus pay as you go, or there's a one-off project versus retainer. So again, the payment system, or if you use a full service provider versus a specialist freelancer. So do you want to talk a bit more to that one?
Yeah, we've been working with a few small businesses that have been paying a flat rate HR retainer to a subscription style support model through a provider. And when they looked at what they were paying versus what they actually needed, they were able to find a better option that allowed them to have somebody there to help them with their HR, but they weren't paying for services that they didn't require. So their HR expenses went from, you know, $8,000 a year to, you know, a lower rate subscription that gives them some basic service. But if they need more, then they pay as they need. So instead of paying a whole bunch of money and not actually leveraging it, they're actually just reducing their costs and then having it there when they need it. So there's a fair few of those, and there's some pretty convincing sales pictures out there that, you know, you sort of see it on, I see a lot of them on my social media feeds, probably a reflection of the things I click on. And I look at that and go, wow, that's a lot of money for a business. And unless you can kind of make the business case to justify that you're getting a return on your investment, looking at some of that pay as you go, outsourcing is sometimes a better model. And also the flip side, depending on your business and the sorts of things that you might be looking to outsource or review in terms of your costs.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to talk to the business owner that you're considering using. Like, for example, I do all my own bookkeeping in my business because I have a really lean, simple business. But I do have a bookkeeper that that I do get to do some work for me, but she offered me a package, and I spoke to her about what it was that I actually needed, which was what I needed was some training and support. So I can do most of the things, but if something goes sideways, I need to be able to flick her an email and have her jump in and take care of that. So instead of going on, like Stacey said, the full retainer sort of package with everything I didn't need, we had a conversation and she was happy to put together an arrangement that suited me. So don't ever be afraid to have conversations with the service providers about what they offer if it doesn't quite meet your needs, because, you know, a lot of people, especially local businesses, are happy to, you know, have a bit of a give and take.
Yeah. So there are some hidden costs and traps of outsourcing, and at times it's not always as easy as it seems. So can you talk to us a little bit about some of those, you know, monitoring the hidden costs and traps of outsourcing?
Absolutely. So some of the things that you've really got to consider when you're outsourcing is the time it's going to take you to get set up with an outside company, because, you know, in terms of the social media that we were talking about, you're going to have to spend time educating them. If you don't already have documents around things like your business values and your tone of voice and all that sort of thing, then you're going to have to spend time getting that information together. If you were to work with someone like a virtual assistant, you would potentially need to train them into using the systems and processes that you want them to use. So it's almost a little bit like having an employee, not really, but, you know, you need to, again, teach them how you do things in your business, or at least have the documents and things in place to be able.
So, insourcing. Did we make that word up, or is it a real word?
I don't know.
One of the things to think about when you're thinking about insourcing is there someone in your team who loves doing something that you're paying someone else for?
Yeah, so instead of outsourcing, could you upskill a team member, or, you know, dig into what they're already really good at to keep that value inside your business? So one example is a business I worked with in the past that were outsourcing their social media content. And they employed a new younger guide who had a real passion for video, like taking videos, especially, you know, TikTok, and taking photos. And they actually took a lot of videos and photos as they took their groups out on these tours. And so with a bit of extra support and a bit of upskilling and just using a little bit of their paid time each week, the company actually insourced their content creation to their new guide and saw their social media engagement triple. But also the guide's it's called employment satisfaction rose enormously because, you know, they were doing something that they loved and were kind of doing as a bit of a hobby. And the fact that they could bring it into the business just was so great for them. So some ideas of tasks that you might want to insource. So again, social media, if you have a keen team member or a younger sort of digital native who's great in that area. Again, on that, photography or videography. And again, that doesn't actually just have to be social media based. If you're a product based business and you constantly need to put up new photos on your website of new products and things, again, if you've got someone who's got a hobby in photography, they might be a great person to do that. Customer onboarding or check-ins. Do you have a staff member who's really, really personable and loves talking to people? They might be great to do that sort of stuff. Local delivery, if you have a quiet day or slow vehicle hours, if you've got someone who loves driving around, of course, making sure you've got the right insurances and everything else in place. Email marketing. One of your members enjoy setting up all that stuff, have a really good head for tech and marketing. In-house events and pop-ups. So actually using your team ideas, going back to your team to get some ideas for different things that you could do instead of hiring an external planner. And market research. So you can actually ask your team to mystery shop your competitors and, you know, in their paid hours to bring back some ideas and some feedback into your business that you can use to improve.
Yeah. That's one of the questions we include when we do employee engagement surveys with our clients is we'll put something in there. Do you have skills and knowledge that are currently not being used that you would like to use in this business? You know, often we don't necessarily know what sort of passions or hobbies people have, or, you know, if you've got people that have had a fair bit of life experience, then they might have done roles in the past and had skills and knowledge that you don't even know they've got that could really add value to your business and at the same time, you know, increase their job satisfaction and engagement. So it's a bit of a win-win for everybody.
So I think that's about all that we had to say for now on the topic. Did we have any questions come up, Kel?
Not so far, but there's plenty of time if anyone has a burning question to ask Stacey or Mikala. So don't be shy. You put your virtual hand up or use the Q&A.
Well, while we're waiting, I'm just going to give you TBAS service another plug. So as Kel said, to start with, for businesses with 19 or fewer full-time equivalent employees, if you've had an ABN for 12 months or more, you can access up to 5 hours of business advice and support. Or if you've had an ABN for 12 months or less, or you don't have an ABN yet, but you're intending on starting a business, you can access up to 2 hours of free business advice. And you can either go to businessadvice.tas.gov.au or Business Tasmania. And, you know, again, as Stacey said, these guys are really experienced. They work with a lot of different businesses. We've had a fair bit to do with a number of them, and they will be able to give you so many more ideas and advice on all the things that we've spoken about today. That's good.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stacey. Thanks, Mikala. It doesn't look like we have any questions. You must have covered everything so thoroughly. So what I might do is I might just share my screen to show the Business Tasmania contact details and just recap on what Business Tas does for the audience. So I'll just do that now. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So for everyone watching, I just wanted to recap on the Business Tas service. So we are part of the state government service and we exist to help you to get started and to help you run your business in any way we possibly can. So we can connect you for support in regards to anything that you've heard about today through our advice services. But you can think of us as being like the central point or a front door, I guess you could think about, to access government support. So we're very solution focused. So the Business Tas team love a interesting, challenging inquiry. We talk to lots of different people and we make sure that we match you with the best service or the best solution possible. And so whether you're running at any business across any industry and any size actually, so typically we help small businesses the most because that's who make up most of the business in Tasmania. But we do help all businesses and we can work out, what we can do to help you as best we can. We're also the point of contact for funding programs delivered through the department, and we have our finger on the pulse of what's going on in terms of local, state and Australian government funding opportunities. So you can actually go to the website and access that information, but most people like to pick up the phone and say, "Oh, hi, how you going? I'm Kel and I run a cafe. I've been doing that for 2 years. I'd like to upgrade my coffee machine. Is there anything I can apply for?" And that way that my team can actually provide very targeted, relevant information. And you don't have to trawl through all the information on the website, but that's an option for you as well. So if you need further support, whether that's business advice, a connection to a digital mentor, or connections with Stacey's team as well, you can contact us through our 1-800 number, email us, or we do run a lot of face-to-face events and online events. So what we'll be doing tomorrow is sending you a very short survey, and we'd love for you to complete that so we can understand what you thought of the session today and hear from you for other ideas about other events you might like us to run as well. So really appreciate your time because I know you're so busy running your businesses. It's great that you've taken time out to work on your business by joining the session with Mikala and Stacey from the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I'm Kel from Business Tas. So thank you again. And I hope you join next week's 5th series in the Cost of Doing Business series. So same time next Tuesday. You can register via the event calendar on our Business Tasmania website, which you'll find in the header. So join us next week as well. If you want to see the recordings for the last 3 sessions, that's on our YouTube channel. On the Business Tas homepage of the website, you can access that really easily. So thank you again.